Also, welcome from my side. The second panel will be in English now. My name is Juliane Bischoff, and I'm part of the curatorial team here at Kunsthalle Wien. I'm glad to introduce and later on join our second contribution for today with Cristina Ricupero, and I'm going to briefly introduce her. Cristina Ricupero is a Paris-based independent curator and critic. From 2000 to 2005, she worked as a curator at the Nordic Institute for Contemporary Art in Helsinki, and also as associate director of exhibitions at the ICA in London until 2004. In 2006, she was commissioned for the European section of the Guangzhou Biennial. As a freelance curator, she has organized exhibitions and events in various international contexts, such as the first Nuit Blanche Monaco, the art festival in 2016, together with its artistic director Jörg Heiser, and shows in institutions such as the Witte de Witt in Rotterdam, the Pavilion of Contemporary Art in Milan, the Galleria Vermelho in Sao Paulo, the Schön Kunsthalle in Frankfurt, or the Museum for Contemporary Art in Bordeaux. Together with Nicolas Schaffhausen and Lars Bang-Larsen, Cristina curated the exhibition Populism in 2005 that was presented at four venues in Vilnius, Oslo, Amsterdam and Frankfurt. Cristina has also, together with Vanessa Joan Müller, curated an exhibition here at Kunsthalle Wien that some of you may remember, the show New Ways of Doing Nothing in 2014. Recently, Cristina was curatorial advisor for CIMA, the biennial in the media city Seoul, in 2016. And currently, she is preparing the next Busan Biennial that she curates together with Jörg Heiser, and which will open in September this year. Cristina has contributed to magazines such as Fries and has lectured, among others, at the Faculty of Art and Architecture in Trondheim, the Kunstuniversität Linz, the Sandberg Institute Amsterdam, and most recently at the MIT program in Art, Culture and Technology in Boston. In her contribution today, titled Cultural Investigations through the format of the exhibition, Cristina will present two of her recent exhibitions that illustrate her curatorial interest and approach. The group exhibition, The Crime Was Almost Perfect, which took place in 2014 in Rotterdam and then traveled to Milan, as well as Secret Societies, which was presented in Frankfurt and Bordeaux in 2011 and 12. These projects will then serve as a starting point for a conversation about general topics of Cristina's curatorial work and agenda after her presentation. But now the floor is yours, Cristina.
No, it works. So it goes along? Okay. I'm going to give a brief, maybe not so brief, presentation of these two exhibitions that Julian just told you. Many of my exhibition projects have dealt with social-political topics, some of them taking up timely controversial themes such as fundamentalisms of the new order or populism. In a way, many of my projects sort of link contemporary art to humanities or social sciences. Following this logic, a few years ago, I co-curated an exhibition called Secret Societies with Alexis Vaillant, which was presented first at the Schön Kunsthalle and then traveled to Bordeaux, CAPC de Bordeaux. More recently, I have made research on the general topic of art as crime, crime as art, and have made first version of this project in Sao Paulo in Brazil with an exhibition called Suspicious Minds. And then later, another expanded version of this project was called The Crime Was Almost Perfect, and took place at the Witte de Witt in Rotterdam in 2014. The final exhibition included new and already existing artistic projects, as well as documents, objects stemming from other sources as crime museums and the world of forensic science. Although these are thematic group shows, they never really aim to be exhaustive, overly pedagogical, or scientific. On the contrary, they are spaces for experiment seen through the prism of contemporary art. Rather than to reveal or teach lessons, the importance of carrying out an artistic and cultural investigation of these topics is rather than to reveal or teach lessons, the main purpose is to create surprises and raise questions. I have always believed in the importance of carrying out an artistic and cultural investigation of these topics in order to gain a better understanding of their mechanisms, as well as their motivations and goals that can also be shared by the art sphere. In a way, the process of making these exhibitions is at the same time equally self-reflexive. So the images that you're seeing here are the exhibition Secret Society at the Kunsthalle, also in Bordeaux, and also The Crime Was Almost Perfect at the Witte de Witte. If it works. So the exhibitions do not aim to illustrate the theme, to be a mere commentary. Instead, the artists selected deal in different ways with the overall thematic. Some works directly address the subject matter, whereas others function in a more mental, historic, or conceptual way through sub-themes. The main idea is to be able to provide a wide, rich, and multi-layered vision of the phenomena, taking also into account all kinds of complexities and paradoxes. During the preparation phase, I tried to bring together, whenever this is possible, a limited group of heterogeneous artists and theorists to discuss, research, and work around the theme. An experience that has been very enriching. The exhibition's architecture has also become crucial to communicate the topic's central elements, involving an architect or an artist in the conceptual planning whenever budgets allow. The main objective behind such an approach is to create special immersive environments that can guide the viewer through routes containing different chapters of the main narrative, seeking above all to take them off guard to surprise them. In recent years, when possible and relevant, I have involved artists more intimately in the overall construction and architectural display of my projects. For secret societies at the Kunsthalle, at the Kunsthalle, for instance, I closely collaborated with Swiss-German artist Fabian Marti. He was able to create an enigmatic architectural display that constantly shifted between revelation and occultation, perfectly responding to the general theme. In 2012, I also co-curated with him an exhibition project for the Ursula Blickle Foundation, and more recently, we worked together in the architectural display for The Crime Was Almost Perfect. An additional goal of my proposals has been to involve artists and graphic designers in the website construction and general communication of the exhibition project, developing a distinctively strong profile. Within the context of The Crime Was Almost Perfect, I invited Gabriel Lester, who in collaborations with Jonas Lund, devised a criminal viral interventions affecting the Witte de Witte communication channels. They can be found on the Witte de Witte's website. I will now focus my talk presenting the exhibition project Secret Societies, which will also be the talk that took place from June to September 2011, and then from November to February 2012. I will also present afterwards The Crime Was Almost Perfect, that was in Witte de Witte in PAC Milan in 2014. What exactly is a secret society? What role does it play in society at large? Why is it relevant to analyze, discuss them in these times we're living now? These are some of the questions we asked ourselves while setting up the project. In a way, we try to activate the ways secrets and secret societies function instead of revealing whatever can be unveiled about any secret society. As soon as a secret is highlighted, its ability to resist disappears. It's not there any longer. Secret societies dealt with the general theme of secret societies through the prism of contemporary art, in the current context of media superexposure, from WikiLeaks to credit rating agencies, just to quote two current examples. Artists have always been fascinated by the unknown, the occult, but unlike journalists who are mainly focused on investigating present-day news, artists can work around the mechanisms of the secret and are better equipped to question the very limits of the ideology of transparency in our era of superexposure. When one Googles the term secret societies, millions of entries come up. Secret societies, this knowledge, what can one learn from this mass of information? More or less, nothing. The research has to be more specific. So according to Wikipedia, a secret society is a club or organization whose activities and inner functioning are concealed from non-members. The term secret society is usually applied to organizations ranging from the common and harmless, college fraternities, to mythical organizations described in conspiracy theories as immensely powerful with self-servicing financial or political agendas, global reach, and often satanic beliefs. Secret society is a term used to describe a variety of organizations, and although the exact meaning of the term is disputed, several of the proposed definitions indicate that a degree of secrecy and secret knowledge should be present. This may include for members a strict obligation of denying that they know about the group's own existence and possibly negative consequences for acknowledging their membership. It also includes strong ties between the organization's members. And frequently, rights which outsiders are generally not allowed to observe. A secret society can be basically defined by three characteristics. It is exclusive, it claims to possess special secrets, and it shows a strong inclination in favor of its own members. Actually, the 19th century French writer and occultist Eliphas Lévy brilliantly summed up the main structure of any secret society as to know, to dare, to will, to keep silence. To make things clear right from the start, it has never been our intention to make a project about secret societies, a scientific, ethnographic, or sociological survey that would cover the topic extensively, nor an art exhibition that would illustrate the theme. Instead of commenting, our wish was to try to create such an atmosphere that would plunge the spectator into the mental world of secret societies. An exhibition that could function somehow like an initiation ritual, inducing the visitor to live certain experiences. We were inspired by the main question of how to present or represent the invisible, how to deal with it, why and how, in this case, make public what is secretive by nature. After doing a certain level of research, we noticed how difficult it was to determine the origins of secret societies. Egypt, Neolithic times, secret societies seem to have always been present in humankind. Yet, what is really known? But then again, it is not so surprising, finally, not to obtain very clear information, as this is precisely linked to their hidden dimensions. To consider this contradiction and to work around it has become one of the project's main challenges. To reflect on the paradox and to try to communicate some of the phenomenon's hidden and cryptic elements has been very important in this process. That is precisely why we have commissioned an artist, Fabian Marty, to design a special display that could almost guide the viewer to choose certain paths, an architecture that could at the same time conceal and reveal, but always keep the secret. So to keep the enigmatic potential of secret societies by creating surprises and raising questions, to give an example of this, there are 2 entrances, some locked rooms, divisions, and contrast. Fabian Marty has conceived what he calls the ruins of a city that never existed, and that could also be considered as an overexposed techno-ruin. When commissioning the display, the specifications were as following. If the secret would be architecture, what would it look like? Then the ultimate idea to create a special atmosphere with the space popped up, one that would constantly shift between revelation and initiation rituals, discoveries and unknown zones. It is clear that such a presentation would necessarily imply a certain level of occultation, because knowledge in secret societies must remain obscure to stay alive and active. Each secret society uses a different set of aesthetic codes and symbols. The space is used for different purposes, rituals, ceremonies, etc. In terms of scenography, they are very inspiring. With that in mind, we thought something had to be invented. Just like secret societies invent their own identifiable trademark, we thought we had to invent our own aesthetic codes. So in a way, the display and the presentation sort of partly mirror certain aspects of how secret societies function. In a certain sense, we wanted the exhibition to function as a rite of initiation for the spectator, a real space for experimentation, whereas, for example, the publication had a very different purpose. It is also important to say that the overall research and writing of some of our contributors have been very influential and inspiring in the shaping of our project. We have been in close dialogue and have consulted some of them on various occasions throughout the process. Their outlook and feedback has been an enormous value. All in all, we can consider, also together with Fabian Marty, that this project has been a collective endeavor. I will take the opportunity to quote one of our contributors, Jan Vervoort, who has shed great light on the topic. There is nothing to unveil about the secret. The secret is the veil. Its only truth is the function it fulfills within a certain social logic by operating as a visibly invisible barrier between the inside and the outside of an exclusive community. This analysis is particularly interesting for us as the exhibition addressed and worked around the paradox of the secret, the fact that a secret only exists when it is communicated. Secret societies play with, interact with society at large and its media culture. Actually, communication technologies today, through networking, create the best, most adequate conditions for new secret societies to emerge. Secret societies escape, but at the same time depend on existing power structures. They are underground and cannot exist out in the open. This also relates somewhat to the analysis the sociologist George Simmel developed 1 century ago. For Simmel, secret societies have an external quality, which is protection, and an internal quality, which is the mutual trust between its members to keep silent. In order to psychologically impose such silence on its members, they are asked right from the start to promise oath with the threat of being sanctioned if they don't follow the promise. This gradual initiation of its members corresponds to secret society's strong hierarchical structures. One of the most important aspects that distinguish secret societies from open societies is precisely the importance they give to formulas, customs, and rituals, the secret of the ritual. The aspect of exclusion that characterizes most secret societies is always linked to a desire for freedom. Autonomy is the very essence of secret societies, but an autonomy which flirts with anarchy. Simmel goes on to conclude, and that's what's interesting the most for us in the context, that the strict, almost absurd rules linked to the ritual in secret societies are not at all in contradiction with its desire for freedom, even anarchy. Secret societies are in a way a small replica of the official world they resist and oppose. So what is most interesting is their capacity to be subversive, non-anti, and counter by definition. Secret societies as a counter-model and alternative are particularly relevant in periods of crisis as an escape value for the political, economic, social crisis we are living. And their exclusion, invisibility, makes them stronger, which is also something Jan Vervoort develops in his text. The secret is a tool of power. That is the key to how many societies are organized, as far as the integration into a community is always acquired through tests of proficiency in the codes of this respective community. And that brings us to the contemporary art world and its possible links to secret societies. For some, the art world could be perceived as some sort of secret society, apparently open, but in reality, very closed, with its special codes of recognition. But one has to be a bit careful when jumping to such conclusions, as this can easily reproduce an over-romanticized idea of art as a form of resistance or cult. So the links are historically determined, and one cannot generalize them. A certain number of artists and writers have either created their own secret societies, invented a fictitious secret society as an artwork, or have simply operated in a similar manner with the exclusivity of membership and strict rules of behavior. Most of their ideas are still very interesting and challenging today. Poets like Yeats, or even more Fernando Pessoa, were strongly influenced by their context or memberships in secret societies. I also think that although the Lettrist International never described itself as a secret society, they constituted themselves as a provincial micro-society, which worked in a similar manner with its very radical way of life, isolation and strict rules of inclusion and exclusion. The Ally lived on the margins of the economy, and leisure was seen as the apex of civilization. The revolution they promised was the supersession of art and the end of work. The Ally was founded by Debord and Woolman and was constituted of 4 women and 7 men. For years, Woolman and Debord outlasted all of the other members, who were gradually excluded until even Woolman too was finally expelled in 1957. Georges Bataille founded a secret society in a public review called Acéphale, the symbol of which was a decapitated man drawn by the artist André Masson. His secret society organized several nocturnal meetings in the woods near an oak, which had been struck by lightning. Acéphale society members were required to adopt and participate in numerous rituals, and also invited to meditate on the text of Nietzsche, Freud, Sade, and Mauss during these meetings. Some samples of the magazines were presented in the exhibition, as well as 2 contemporary pieces that refer to the theme. One is a neon piece by Gareth Van Evans, where he takes this logo and enlarges it as a neon, and the other is a work, process-based project by a Swedish duo called Golden and Seneby, which is a long research they have been doing on a mysterious offshore company called Headless. Jim Shaw invented a fictional cult called Oism, grounded on his interest in religious movements' influence on American society. Supposedly founded by Annie O. Wooten in upstate New York in the mid-19th century, Oism is based on the belief in the reincarnation, the reverse passage of time, and a female divinity symbolized by the letter O. The installations dealing with Oism function like a theatrical backdrops that combine real and fictional characters related to the invented cult. In the exhibition, a video that is part of this body of work which is basically an initiation ritual of this cult, was shown. For some years, Joachim Koster has been researching and making works on the early 20th century esoteric society from London, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and its renegade member, Aleister Crowley. Crowley's portrait was included on the cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's album, and its imagery finds its way into the songs of John Lennon and David Bowie, among others, revealing Crowley's position as a progenitor and avatar of the occult thriving within the counterculture. Crowley's presence was also felt in a series of photos Koster took of the location where Aleister Crowley had founded his commune, the Abbey of Thelema, close to Palermo in Sicily, through a diagram of the occult by Susan Treister, and through the film by one of his most notorious disciples, Kenneth Anger, Invocation of My Demon Brother. In 1978, Kiepenberger moved to Berlin, where he founded Kiepenberger's Bureau, together with Gisela Capitaine, as the platform for the self-performance or self-promotion, and managed Club SO 36. This bureau was a tool for inserting himself into many social and creative contexts as possible, and one could say that it functioned somehow like a closed society. One of the things we wanted to achieve with this exhibition was to create, as I said before, this specific atmosphere, a visual statement that would have the capacity to project the viewer into other worlds and allow him or her to ask, what can I do with this, instead of what does this all mean? So the exhibition is highly staged, and it functions as an overall environment. One can say it has a structure a bit like a play with different acts or different momentums. The space is sometimes darkened or overexposed, obscure and transparent at the same time. Although this mise en scène is driven by the idea to produce a ritual like the architecture and space design in any secret society, the purpose of the exhibition is also to invent the limits of such an exhibition. Thanks to the double entrance that forces one to choose, right, with the official portrait of Bush upside down by Jonathan Horowitz, or left with a large-scale painting of a group of black women exchanging letters by Lynette Yadom Boaki, there is immediately the question of which direction to choose, and consequently, the frustration it produces to possibly miss something. Right from the start, people can get lost and stay lost until they decide which path to take. And right from the start, we also thought of dividing the exhibition space into different zones, loose zones that would cover secret society's topics, which are anyway interconnected. The same thing goes with the audio guide that we commissioned Gary Lackman to write, which has a very particular form and role, as it did not function as a classical way commenting the exhibition and works on display, but rather as an independent, more open guide to the topic of secret societies. It was more of a free-floating, drifting sort of thing that evokes some kind of personal experience in the audience, not just informs them. So the audio guide should thus apply to wherever one is in the exhibition. Although the exhibition space and audio guide have been conceived and divided into zones or chapters: initiation, hidden masters, secret knowledge, symbols, altered state, conspiracy consciousness, all of these things in a way interblend. So the main theme has artificially been broken down into these components as a kind of working tool, but in the actual experience, they all come together. Just to say that we have not divided the whole space into different rooms that would cover each a specific zone or theme with works that would only refer to these. Things intercommunicate much more, although one can sometimes feel while walking through the space that there is more of this or that according to where you are. So when the spectator visits the show while listening to the audio guide, and when he or she discovers a particular artwork, something very personal or different can occur. Just like the idea of the third mind, William Burroughs talks about that when one puts two things together, a third one, which is basically mental, comes out of it. Each person has his or her own relation to the secret, and the audio guide reinforces this point. The idea was not to produce a marked path in order to explain the inexplicable. Thanks to the audio guide, and because of the division into zones, even though they are intermingled, we directly enter the unstable world of secret codes and secret knowledge, being surrounded by artworks that all deal with initiation, secret knowledge, altered states of the mind, networks, and of course symbols. And this beyond conspiracy, without real end exhibition, the artworks reveal and conceal at the same time. In a way, the main exhibition space is very dense, but punctuated by 4 more open spaces containing big installations, certainly platforms of negotiation. For instance, Eva Grubiger's Trial of Henry Kissinger is a black, sleek, minimal yet monumental installation which depicts a trial room that nevertheless remains utopian and directly draws the spectator into the world of power, politics, secrets, and conspiracy. Henry Kissinger was an ambiguous character who, although awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his commitment to renewed peace negotiations in Vietnam, has also been accused of war crimes in Vietnam, as well as having been associated with the secret services of various military regimes in Latin America, including Pinochet. A figure somehow above the law or beyond good and evil. It is for sure that Kissinger can easily personify the hidden master behind closed doors, making drastic decisions. Other works, such as Sean Snyder's The Site, which presents reports by governmental information services mixed with Western media upon the capture of Saddam Hussein, or Jill Majid's The 18 Spies, that explore the nature of governmental secrecy and obligatory silence through her research work with the Dutch Secret Service, hang not so far away. So when exiting the environment, the viewer can once again choose between 2 different routes and will perceive from a distance something like a house where one has 2 possibilities to enter. When inside the house, as in the beginning of the journey, one is thrown back once more into a dark space, confronted by multiple human-sized images of the same face, as the protagonist of Brice Desperger's remake of Eyes Wide Shut plays all roles in the film. Body Double 22 pushes the cliché image of secret societies to its very extreme. This non-linear selected edit of the film is like a never-ending mirror game where images are deconstructed and deformed, triggered into the spectator's mind. So, just to conclude, what about secrets in the age of WikiLeaks? Within our current universe of digital communications, the mass disclosure of information through leaks and the whistleblower seem to be the rule, not the exception. But doesn't absolute transparency and information explosion offer the best possibility for camouflage? Secrets are so obvious today that we are no longer aware of them. These and many other issues were raised in the exhibition, whose intention was not to capture invisible things or uncover conspiracies, but explicitly try to highlight the paradox that secrets are only secrets if they are communicated, yet disappear as soon as they are out. So, I don't know if I should comment these images or no. Yeah, I have the other show I should talk about, or it's too long? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe we will talk about the other exhibition in the conversation. So yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, which I think gave a very detailed insight into your approach. And now we have a little bit of time to talk about more general aspects, maybe also the potentials of curatorial and institutional work today. Yeah, so I would begin with a question that touches on your interest as a curator. As the title of this panel says, you aim to undertake cultural investigations through the format of the exhibition, linking art and social science or humanities. Among other media, why do you think that also the format of the exhibition is suitable for that purpose? And also maybe, do you think that the exhibition has a certain quality to communicate present-day concerns and maybe also to transfer knowledge in a different way than other media?
So you skipped the first. Yeah, actually, I think we are actually quite lucky to have the exhibition format, which enables us multiple possibilities through film, sound, documentation. And I believe, especially as I said during my presentation, that the display, the architecture is essential. Of course, when we have enough budget, also it's always a question also of budget and money, but there are always ways to collaborate with, for example, an artist who already uses display in his own practice to present his own work or her work, to find ways of how to present things in, let's say, not a classical way, and create some kind of dramaturgy. I think the theatrical aspect is also important, or as well through the confrontation or juxtaposition of different types of works that are put into dialogue, and we wouldn't expect certain, objects or works to be next to each other, or let's say also choosing colors. For example, for secret societies, all of a sudden we thought obviously the black obscure is something would be the logical thing to do, but then again we decided to paint the walls of the Kunsthalle this fluo yellow, which refers to or times of super exposure and transparency. So, and also shifting, the idea of shifting between concealment and revealment.
Yeah, maybe talking further about the method that you apply in the exhibition that you presented, but also now we see images of The Crime Was Almost Perfect, which I think worked in a very similar way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you used the word immersive environments that you try to create through the exhibition, mm-hmm. that can plunge the visitors, so to say, in fictive worlds, and you take all levels of the exhibition into account to achieve that. Like the artworks themselves, the staging of the works, the exhibition architecture, the mediation material, like the audio guide, for example, and also the graphic design of the exhibition. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Through that, you also aim to appeal on an emotional level in order to stimulate a reflection on a social topic. Do you consider it important to relate the exhibition to the potential audience's life world, like in the sociological meaning of a living environment, to connect to what people experience in everyday life?
Yes, yes. I hope that the exhibitions anyway raise questions or create surprises or make people intrigued, make them think, or relate to things that they are thinking of or that disturb them as well. And yes, definitely.
And connected to that, can you also elaborate a bit how you choose a certain topic of the exhibition and the context for its presentation?
Well, this depends on the context. Sometimes some exhibitions are commissioned and there is a kind of a theme given. For example, when I did an exhibition in Copenhagen called Fundamentalisms of the New Order, there was a kind of a theme already imposed. It was called Nordic fundamentalism, which was a kind of contradiction in terms, and we did work around this and went beyond the Nordic kind of situation. And but also, these are topics, as I said before, that these social, political or topics that have always interested me. Also because I come from that, I study social sciences, anthropology. And also because I'm interested in art practices that are not self-indulgent or that try to look at the outside world and what's surrounding us and what's happening. But in a way, for example, this exhibition, Fundamentalisms of the New Order, kind of built the grounds for us to be able to do populism right after, and there are links to these topics. They are logical follow-ups, and populism can, also after populism, doing secret societies, it's not so incoherent as many far-wing movements come from also secret societies, and there's a link there to populism. And art as crime as art, the criminal aspect of linked to art can stem from secret societies that have in many countries been abolished because they also went beyond the law.
So in a way, the topics that you work on are kind of connected with each other, and it's more like a long-term investigation.
In a way they kind of unfold. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
but not necessarily in a logical time span or. Mm-hmm.
And in this context, you mentioned already the exhibition Populism that you curated with Nicolas Schaffhausen and Lars Bang-Larsen in 2005. There was a time when populism was already perceptible, but far less present than today. And in preparation of our conversation, I found a very interesting quote, which I would like to talk to lead us to the next question. It comes from the introduction of the populism exhibition, and it says, there is little doubt that populist movements gain much of their persuasive power from their ability to play on emotions and desires that are supposedly absent from the concerns of mainstream democratic politics. Within this context of emotionally charged political rhetoric, an art exhibition can provide a space for reflection and experience that differs from other public forums. And in this context, I would be interested in how you see the exhibition and maybe also a public institution as a different kind of public forum.
Well, first of all, maybe it's interesting to say how populism came about. I think one of the things that made us do this exhibition, and Nikolaus can speak about this, is the fact that we noticed at the time already that many cultural institutions were using populist strategies to gain a bigger audience. So this is one point that made us actually want to do this exhibition. And another point we discussed during the preparations, and we were a group of theorists and artists discussing, was
one mini detail. It was not only institutions, also artists.
No, of course.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the artist point.
Okay.
And, another point which we debated was the difference between populism and popular. Is populism always popular? Is popular always populist? How some artists borrow this populist rhetorics. For example, even Joseph Beuys said everybody is an artist. Isn't that populist? Some artists like Thomas Hirschhorn, could we say he is a populist artist? Maybe. The collective Superflex, the activist artists Superflex, are they also using populist strategies?
I'm wondering, would we have invited in that time, in 2005, and we were on the plane already in 2003, Ai Weiwei, if he would have been present in this time? Ai Weiwei? I'm just thinking about us.
Yeah, sure,
yeah.
of course. And so this in a way, the project didn't want to just point at this is populism. We wanted to work from the inside, in a way, borrow the main kind of rhetorics in the way we structure the whole thing. Even the idea of showing the exhibition in 4 venues almost at the same time wanted to create a special momentum, and be populist. One of the works that we commissioned by Superflex and Jens Honing was a huge sign that counted the audience coming in and showed to the public outside how many people were there, so stimulating people to go. So yes, instead of commenting, the show was in a way kind of self-analytical, and using the rhetorics we were in a way denouncing, let's say.
So in a way, one could say maybe also that commenting this development through art and exhibitions is also strong or works very well because certain populist politics and desires and effects that they play on are not necessarily separate from some expressed in the sphere of art also.
Yeah, this is what through these examples.
Okay. I'm afraid we don't have that much time, so maybe I skip to another very, or rather abstract or not so much connected to the topics of the exhibition you presented. And shifting to your work as a freelance curator. I would be interested what it means for you to now, more and more, operate outside of institutional infrastructures. How you would describe the relation between freedom and constraints in your freelance work. And also how you deal with a specific environment. I mean, it's also mentioned in your biography and in the program. You are going to create the next Busan Biennial. But taking it to a more abstract level, how do you deal with the specific environments? And maybe one could say the cultural location of the work, place where you work.
I think it's important to take into account the environment, the context. Every exhibition has to be context sensitive, let's say, without also getting into the trap of the quota. You're in Busan, you have to take, I don't know how many artists from Busan, or you're in the Nordic region, you must take a majority of, it's always a balance, a good balance of the context and the constraints that are put to you, also almost politically by those who commission. And of course, it's much easier to work within Europe, even though in Europe, different countries have also their different agendas and cultures that one has to take into account. Without coming with a ready-made exhibition, that's should be avoided. But it gets much more drastic, let's say, when it's in another continent, a culture that is totally different than ours, like in South Korea. Then one has to really, really, really be self-critical and question him, herself. How do I deal with this? Am I, as a European, colonizing here, or try to avoid to the maximum point something of that kind? So, for example, in Korea, I want to set up a board of consultants or curatorial advisors that will be mostly all of them Koreans or Asian, to also create a better balance between me and York, coming from Europe, and the situation which is in South Korea, for example. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we also saw in the presentation that you tried to connect people from different fields and work together and understand the exhibition as a collective endeavor.
Yeah, of course, I'm not an expert in criminology, and I'm not an expert in secret societies. So, because I'm not an expert, but these topics intrigue me and interest me, I reach out, obviously, to people who have done more extensive research on the topic, and it's much more interesting and enriching to build up a project like this with different people, artists. Yeah, I hope it's clear.
Yeah, as we do not have that much time, I still want to give the chance to the audience to ask questions, maybe.
If not, then we say thank you, Cristina. So, and thank you, Thank you for moderating this wonderful talk, Juliane.